Hi, everybody, and welcome to Metaphysical Insights. I am your host, William Becker, and I'm very pleased and privileged today to have as my very special guest Nicole Strickland. Nicole is, well, I've nicknamed her the Queen of the Queen Mary because she is quite an expert about the ship. She spends a lot of time with her and has written a number of books and knows a lot of the history, a lot of the ghosts, and all the rest. She's got her own shows, a variety of books, does quite a bit of speaking, and just an all around fabulous human being. So, Nicole, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, William. It's always a pleasure speaking with you on your awesome show, and likewise, you're a fabulous human being yourself. So,
Uh,
thank you so
well,
much.
thank you. Thank you. Um, I'm going to jump right into it. You've I've seen your Facebook page lately about uh, more speaking, and tell me a little bit more about what that's about, what you're speaing on,
Oh,
and
yes. Yeah, sure. So, I offer, gosh, I think it's a variety, around like 12 or 13 different topics related to the paranormal. So, I'm going to be doing in May, I believe it's May 6th, there's up in Orange County, there's
mhm,
a pretty massive retirement community up there, Laguna Woods. And so they
okay,
invited me back in January actually to speak on the afterlife. And then, of course, I had COVID again, so I couldn't do that. So it's been rescheduled to May 6th. So it'll be, they have a Life After Life club. So where they get together and they have various speakers about different topics related to the afterlife and afterlife studies. So they invited me to speak on that. So that'll be May 6th. And
okay,
then just a variety of different library presentations coming up that I'll be doing, and then some others in the fall as well. So they just sometimes it's like there's spurts of them, and then other times it's kind of dormant. But it sounds
okay,
like I have quite a few coming up, so it's great, it's fun, I enjoy it.
excellent.
And
Now,
you
do you have?
speak too,
I
so
do.
which is
I
good.
don't get
You
out
like to
there as
speak
much as
too,
you do.
yeah.
Oh, I love it. Put me up at
Oh, it's
front of a bunch of people, and I in my
I
element.
know, right?
Yeah,
I know. Oh my god, and
but
as a kid, oh my gosh, it's so funny. As a kid, I hated going up in front of the class. Oh my
oh
gosh, it
yeah,
was horrible. But now as an adult, I think if you enjoy talking about something that you're
mhm,
knowledgeable on and that you have a passion for, it obviously is more enjoyable than something you're not passionate about. But I don't know, I love it. I love getting up in front of people. It's
yeah, and
go figure.
and shoot, I remember I was the American Field Service president in my junior or senior year in high school, and I had somebody else give the speech, the program to the student body because I was
Mhm.
not going to. But
Yeah.
now, it's like, what do you mean I can't have a microphone? Um, so,
I know.
but I think what really helped me, well, I'm getting older, but grad school, we had to give group and individual presentations.
Yeah.
And I was also a member of City Club, which is a civic organization where we have really big name speakers come through, international, national,
Right.
it's big stuff. And I'm thinking, oh, I do every bit as well as these people do. As long as I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. And then you learn
So,
from others too. When you
mhm,
observe others speaking, you pick up ideas as well. So,
right. And learn to just be yourself in your own
mhm,
style. Um,
exactly.
I can't read a speech very well. I get lost. So I have to have a few bullets if I need to remember something, and the rest is extemporaneously. My
Yeah.
my mouth and my brain don't work very well anymore. So,
Oh, well, you know what? You're doing fine. I have moments, I call them, where two fuses don't connect together.
mhm.
It's just, there's a fuse problem there. It happens to me all the time. So,
Okay, good. I feel better. You're a
you're
lot
not
younger than
alone.
I am. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, not really. I'm 43 people. Okay, 43. I'm kind of
Well,
yeah.
I woke up a month or so ago and looked in the mirror and went, "Oh my God. I'm closer
Oh,
to 70 than I am 60."
well, you look fabulous. I would not have
Thank you.
ever guessed that ever.
Yeah, I'm
So,
I'm 6 I turned 66 in December, so it's taking a while to settle in.
wow. Well, you have good genes, so
Ah,
good
thank
stuff.
you.
Mhm.
Well, what are some of the other topics you talk about?
Oh my goodness, let's see. So some I do more often than others.
Mhm.
I have 2 different ones on the afterlife. I have paranormal research and investigation presentations that can be done actually as a course as well as a presentation. I have obviously one on the RMS Queen Mary, of course, one that's
Mhm.
called San Diego's Most Haunted, which is also the name of a book I wrote where I talk about 25 different historically haunted locations in San Diego. I'm always weirded out by using the word haunted because I think it has such a negative connotation, but
Right.
that was the title of the book there. And then I have, let's see, different ones that I branch off regarding paranormal research and investigation, one of which is documenting your data and paranormal research and investigation. Let's see, communicating with spirits, the spiritual realm. Let's see, tulpas and thought projections and their
Oh.
influences in paranormal phenomena. W- Animals in the afterlife. That's a new one that I developed. I haven't
Mhm.
given that yet, but it's there. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember some of the other ones here. They're listed if you go on my website, author Nicole Strickland, under speaking. They're all listed there. So there's a few more that I'm just blanking on. I mean, hello, but they're there. They're listed there.
Great. I'm
So
writing
yeah, I could actually let's see here. Oh, there's another one too, like
.com.
mind yeah, .com. Yeah, author NicoleStrickland.com. There's another one. Oh my gosh, mind, body, and spirit and how the balancing of that helps people to connect more with those in the spirit realm and in the afterlife. Another
Okay.
one I have where I talk about, now I'm starting to remember, hello, different types of beings, ghosts and spirits, interdimensional entities, ETs, ultra terrestrials, cryptozoological types of beings. So going into that as well.
Okay. Now,
So
what do you mean by
yeah.
ultra-terrestrials? That's a term I
Well,
haven't
just
heard.
yeah, so we have the, the extraterrestrials,
Mhm.
or what many people view as aliens. I like to I mean, I don't know if my definition is correct on ultra terrestrials. I like to think that they're maybe a little bit more higher, like highly advanced than just typical extraterrestrials, so just more higher advanced in terms of intelligence and things of that nature, maybe emanating from different, universities, metaverses that we're not yet familiar with. But
Okay.
speaking of it, and it just dawned on me, speaking of classifying different energies in the paranormal, it's funny. I was just talking to my mom about this right before the show. I have a little bit of an issue over classifying certain energies, ghosts, spirits, let's say Bigfoot or cryptozoological beings, because I feel that we don't know enough about them yet to really put them in a box in terms of saying, okay, this is exactly what they are. So I kind of, even though I classify, I try not to over classify just because I think we're not yet 100% sure on what these beings are and what their intent is and things of that nature. So I try not to over categorize them, if that makes sense.
Oh,
So
bless you, my child. Thank you so much for saying that.
yeah,
I I
oh
let
yeah.
them tell me what they are or show
Yeah,
me
yeah.
pretty much, and I kinda generalize because,
Mhm.
you have to be able to talk about things, but
Right, right.
I think, um, yeah, that's fascinating. And even
Yeah,
those I mean, even when dealing with the Fae or something where we think we know because of a book or something like that. It's like, "No, you tell me who you are or what you are. You tell me what you want me to call you or not call you or
exactly.
whatever." It's not up to
Exactly.
me to put a label on you.
That's
Um,
exactly right, and that's
yeah.
one of, like, my pet peeves a little bit, and people don't do it maliciously, of course
No.
not, but it's
Uh-uh.
just, trying to it's more for our understanding and maybe in educating others, you have
Mhm.
to, in some form or another, categorize and whatnot, but, I just question, whether a lot of people will think that certain, like, cryptozoological beings are nothing but evil and have this, ill intent. I have to disagree on that. How do we know that? We don't know that yet. They could be very benevolent. We don't know.
Well, and they could be
So,
like
and then you're getting into
uh,
people's beliefs too,
right,
and how that influences perceptions and things of that nature.
right. And which ones are actually real, which ones don't exist. And
Exactly.
they could be like us, where we're all different. I know
Yeah.
some pretty mean people, and I know some pretty nice people, and everything in
Mhm.
between.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
yeah, I use the word being or entity mostly
Yeah.
to try to be as benign and non-boxy or definitive as possible.
Yeah. I
Um,
like that. I
yeah,
respect that for
oh,
sure.
thank you. And I put Bigfoot, well, actually more with the what I see as interdimensional, um,
Mhm.
because that's what they tell me. Like the Fae and such. That's what I pick up from them. I'm not going to swear to it, but that's what they inform me of, and it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
I agree with that. I think there's definitely like an interdimensional component. Exactly what that is, I don't know.
yeah, and I have had really pleasant experiences. Um,
Amazing.
yeah, with
Amazing.
the only there have been a few human entities that haven't been very nice, but once they know that you're not afraid of them, once they realize that you know that they can't hurt you, and they know you don't want to hurt them, they kind of, well, they're like bullies. They
Mhm.
can become a good friend once they realize that.
That's a good point, yeah.
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 Um,
Yep, that's a good way to put it right there.
yeah, I used to have a guy follow me around Oregon City that was an enforcer type dude. He and I got
Oh my
along
god.
great. Yeah, it was great. He thought I was
Hey,
cute, so that always helps.
well,
But
I can't imagine anyone not liking you, William. I mean, you have such a kind heart and all of that. I mean, that I can't even imagine that.
you're making me blush, and that's so kind.
No,
I
I
I
mean,
know people
jeez.
aren't gonna not everybody's going to agree with you, but,
Well, I don't know, I'm just
I
going on what I've witnessed and what I've observed and all that, so
well, I think we have a responsibility to continually grow on to being our best true self,
mhm,
and I don't
mhm.
think anyone's true self is nasty. Now,
See,
that doesn't
that's
mean we
that
don't
right there. Mhm.
that doesn't mean we don't take care of ourselves or stand up for ourselves or keep ourselves out of unhealthy situations. But it's just if we work to be, and for me, it's part of what we're. Thank you, Katie. It's part
Yeah,
of what
thank you.
our process is all about on a spiritual journey and as our life journey. Maybe I just read
Absolutely.
too many Greek philosophers, but um,
No, it's so true, and, I think we're in a phase too where we're almost being begged to evolve to our true selves, and I think some
mhm,
people are welcoming that. Others may not be aware of it, but yet they're fighting it because they maybe subconsciously are aware.
mhm,
So there's this kind of duality with that, but, I don't know, I just, I try to go on with intuition, and we all have that, we all have
right.
intuition, but it
Mhm,
seems that we're in a phase where we're, like I said, being begged to evolve to our higher selves. Some people are just graciously accepting that, and others may not be aware of it, and so there's, like, this kind of fight going on within themselves, and
right.
so,
And I think
uh
there's some that have just agreed with the lower self.
yeah.
Um,
Yep.
Again, that doesn't mean pure evil. The
No.
and the one of the well, it's not a normal teaching, but one of the thoughts in the Catholic Church, in the liturgy of the Holy See, the advanced high level think tank people, is that we aren't responsible, and I'm not. proselytizing here or whatever you're thinking about. I'm only putting it out as a possibility of change. Anyway, the idea is if people don't hear the message of salvation in a way they can receive it, they are not
Mhm.
responsible for that. And even after death, until the last horn calls or whatever, there's a
Mhm.
chance to accept that. Now, we can
Yes.
turn
Yeah.
that into something non religious and look at that more as growing into our potential or being our true self. And that's part of the afterlives, but it's also part of um, change now where we can have our own epiphanies. And you hear of
Mhm.
that happening to people and they
You
change their
do.
way. There was
Yeah.
somebody on the news last night, a kid that's going off to play college or professional basketball. Um, yeah, I think it's basketball. His mother dumped he and his sister off on the street when the sister was born and took off. They had foster parents for a while, then were adopted by a really nice family. And this kid had never seen the mean reason to do anything nice for anybody. And his adopted mother worked with him, and they went down the list to at least you could hold the door open for somebody.
Oh, I
And
see. Yeah.
he did that, and then he did it for all the time for everybody, and felt so good, and so it totally changed him around to realizing how nice it is to actually do things for other people, and just changed
That's
his whole way of thinking.
phenomenal. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, it's almost like his adoptive mother wanted him to experience the feeling of doing something good for others, and so once you know what that feels like, that motivated him to continue on. So
exactly.
see? So that's
Yeah,
there's a positive role models, you know?
yeah, and he's doing charity work, all kinds of stuff. I mean,
Oh
it's
my
great.
gosh, that's amazing. That is
Yeah,
I love hearing stories like that. I'll have to read the article on that.
yeah.
I love that.
I can't remember if it was CBS News or if it was NewsHour, one or the other.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah,
but
I'll find it. That's I love hearing stories like that.
mhm. And
Yeah.
so it's easy to despair of the human society, but um, we still have some last minute hopes. The doomsday
Yeah.
clock is what, 80, 90 seconds till it's not
Yes.
on midnight yet.
Yeah, no, no, not quite yet, no.
Yeah. Well, I guess, well, you can tell me this question isn't fair and you don't have to answer it because it's kind of like trying to say which one of your children is your favorite. But do you have a particular talk? Um, and you're right, Norma. I agree.
That's my mother,
Um,
she's listening. "Hi, mom."
okay. Hi.
Yeah.
But do you have a particular topic that you prefer to talk about that you like talking about most?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I mean, I love them all, don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And, the audience too, depending on who the audience is, but I let me preface this by saying that when I started out in the paranormal, and
Mm-hmm.
I mainly am into ghost research and ghosts and hauntings and spirits sort of research. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
with reading and I have knowledge about the other branches. Don't get me wrong, but that's my investigations have been more into historically haunted locations, private residences, things of that nature. So when
Right.
I first started out, I was very much into the paranormal aspect of ghost research.
Mm-hmm.
And so, obtaining that data and getting the evidence and things of that nature. And I still am, don't get me wrong. But in the last few years, I've evolved more into afterlife study and the science of like near death experiences, shared death experiences, the science into uh, the uh, the human souls or what I'm saying is human consciousness and its survival of death. So that's what really, really fascinates me and learning more about the afterlife and what that entails. So I my two presentations on the afterlife, I've really I would say that that's probably my favorite in terms of
Mhm.
just because I think there's a lot there. And I think
Right,
afterlife, the study of the afterlife is so fascinating, and there's so much to learn and grow from, and talking with people that have had experiences. Even myself have had just profound experiences with departed loved ones, even animals, and even those that I don't know, just very, very profound experiences that showcase that the afterlife is a very beautiful place where we
right.
go to. So, that I would say is probably my favorite, and then, of course, you know how people that know me know how much I love the Queen Mary, so I'm always passionate about doing a presentation on the Queen Mary, and then with that, I delve into the, legendary, iconic history of the ship. I mean, honestly, that to do a presentation an hour or 2 hours long for the Queen Mary is almost doing it wrong because there's so much to say and you have to pack it into that 1 or 2 hours.
Right,
So, but I give like a historical overview and then I talk about the paranormal phenomenon, how the theories on why the ship is so paranormally active, and getting into a lot of my experiences and a lot about her resident spirits. So those two I would probably say are probably my favorite.
okay.
So that was
That
a
would
long drawn out, yeah, long drawn out answer to your question.
No,
Sorry
it's
about that.
fantastic. No, it's fantastic. I always love talking to you, the few chances we get.
I know.
Um,
Oh my God, I
that's
know.
part of why I wanted you back on the show again so soon, is that we don't get a chance
I
to do
know.
much. And at conferences, when we are in the same place, we're busy, and
I
you
know.
get 5-second conversations here and there, and that's about it.
I
And
know. There was one time where it was the Oregon Ghost Conference. I think it was the last day, and I saw you outside for like 2 minutes. I'm like, oh my gosh. I think I had
yeah,
to leave to the airport or something. I don't
right.
know, but I mean, gee,
And
it's
I wanted
crazy.
to buy a couple of your books, and you'd either sold out or you'd already packed everything up,
I
on
like
one of the
likewise.
occasions. Yeah,
Oh my
and,
gosh.
so, um, yeah, it's difficult. And when you can go hear Nicole, she is good. She's very good at
Oh,
speaking. I have been able to hear her at conferences speak, um, not always when she's speaking because I may be off
you're
somewhere.
doing your own, yeah, and you're
Yeah,
great too. You're
well, thank
amazing
you.
as well. But thank you so much.
And
I tend to be a perfectionist. I've kind of lessened that a little bit as I've gotten older, but I'm always trying to improve. Some people welcome constructive criticism and others just don't. I try to welcome it. So,
I do too.
I try.
I I I'm basically just what you get is what you see up there,
Yeah.
um, but I'm open to constructive criticism, I hope. Um, but your reputation as a speaker is really good too. Everybody,
Oh, thank you.
all of the people that I know that have interacted with you, um, they're all think you're a fabulous researcher, writer, speaker, and human being in
Oh,
general. So
that really
so
that
buy
makes
the
my
books,
day. That
people.
really does. Mm, and
Um,
likewise,
well,
I will, and I said
thank
this
you.
before on your show, the Pacific Northwest has a plethora of just amazing people all around, but people that are
Mhm.
not only passionate about what they do, but they're really, really accomplished at it. So, and it's
Yes.
weird how it when back in I think it was 2014 or 2015, I kept seeing on the internet Oregon Ghost Conference, and I was like, God, I gotta check that out. So then I emailed Rocky and I was like, if you ever want someone to talk about the Queen Mary, and then he wrote back saying, I've been looking for someone. And that's like the
Yeah.
synchronicity sort of thing, you
Mhm.
know. The rest is
Well,
history,
and I'm
I
the
guess.
co-founder of the conference. The first
That's oh my
he
God, yes, that's right.
he had been talking about it for forever, and John Collins, who's a good friend, had put together
Mhm.
what was called West Coast Ghost Hunters. It was the first site I'm aware of, website, to let people meet and make connections and interact and all that. Plus, then I set up the
Mhm.
web page for it. So we finally had a contact base big enough to do outreach to
Awesome.
invite people to participate and get people to come. So the first 3 years, I was involved in well, it was at the Pioneer Community Center, and then,
Oh, right, and then it moved to Oregon City, right?
well, it was in Oregon City at the Pioneer Community Center, but it
Oh,
moved
I
to the old
see,
high
okay.
school building in
That's
Oregon
right,
City,
yeah, and that
and
was the first time I went there,
and then it moved to
2015.
Seaside, and
Yeah,
I
oh,
wasn't.
Seaside, that's a great place for it. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, beautiful.
The during the Coast Conference at the old high school building, I was attending a conference in London, so,
Oh,
um,
okay.
that was
Yeah, that's right, thanks for reminding me on that because that's I mean,
it
it's
was
a
fun, a lot of history, a
yeah,
lot of time.
absolutely. Absolutely, and Oregon City too, I mean, that was the first time I went when it was in the old high school. That's just a fabulous I mean, it's a town to me because 'cause I'm from San Diego, but I mean, it's a
It is a
nice little
town.
I'd like to go back there, it's super historical. Seaside is just absolutely gorgeous, my goodness.
Oh, good.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Well, I'm an old Astoria boy. I didn't ever live there, but my mother was born there. Her mother was born there. Her mother's
okay.
mother and father came from Finland, but
Oh, wow.
so I got the Astoria Finn going through me pretty strong, and
Nice,
so we were up
nice.
there all the time when Grandma was alive, and um,
Wow.
we used to get to ride the ferry across the bay, and
Good
Mom had a
times.
yeah, Mom had a great uncle who was a ferry boat pilot, so she'd be able to blow the whistle when she was a little kid,
Oh
and
my god, how fun. Oh my gosh, that's an
uh,
experience right there. Oh,
yeah,
wow.
another one had been a bar pilot, and I didn't know those guys. They were, her great uncles when she was
R
little, but
Mhm.
um, I would love to have heard more of the stories, but
Wow,
yeah,
that's so cool. The Pacific I love the Pacific Northwest. The energy up there too, there's an energy about it that, for me, resonates with me. And I
mhm.
can't tell you how many people I've talked to that have come from California, Southern California, even Northern California, and they've moved up there and they don't look back. So I don't know, maybe one of these days I'll I might move up there. I don't know when, but it might
Well,
happen.
you'd be welcome.
Yeah, it's
We
beautiful.
we do get more rain,
And I love that. I love it. I get sad when it doesn't rain. When it rains
and
here and then, after a couple days, I'm like, "Oh, I want it to rain more." It's crazy.
yeah, or you get it all at once,
Yeah, yeah. Oh, this
Yeah,
winter was insane. My gosh.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think we're even out of our drought or partly out of it, I would say. So,
Oh, good. Um,
yeah,
Parts of our state are, parts of it aren't. But yeah, we're different, a different breed up here, and
I love it. I love it.
it's mixing, and it's becoming more eclectic,
Mhm.
which I really like. You can hear more languages
Yeah,
in Costco or walking down the streets of Portland. Um, you see a little bit more diversity than you used to, which makes me feel more comfortable.
that's
Um,
amazing.
because we didn't used to be that way, We're- but we're less provincial.
Yeah, that's interesting how it evolves, through the years.
Hmm.
So,
Well, what about? I want to talk a little bit more, maybe, if you'd like, on your take of the afterlife or the between lives or the involvement. Um, how does this work? And how do you do the research? Now, how much of a medium are you? How much of this is mediumship?
oh my goodness. See, I'm one of these well, I will say that I am absolutely a medium, and I'm gonna
Right.
preface this by saying I think everyone has intuition. Everyone has the capability of channeling and having some sort of mediumship, tendencies. Just some people
Exactly.
maybe aren't aware of it. Maybe they
Right.
are closed off to it.
Mhm,
Maybe they know and they just don't wanna open up to it.
mhm.
I I was talking to Peter Orbea about this, a few months ago. I've never openly classified myself as a psychic medium. why
Right.
I keep a low profile. I have my own reasons for that. But I will say that yes, absolutely. And it's my grandmother, so my mom's mother, my grandmother Helen, she used to always say, like, oh, I was born with a veil over my head. So there's a strong intuitive mediumship capability capabilities running down through the maternal line. So I've
Mhm.
had it ever since I was a child. And it's not scary, but it's like it's almost like it's a blessing in disguise because you know information and you can benefit people with it, but yet it's sometimes hard to get some of that information, especially like I've done a lot of remote viewing with missing persons, and I've even helped law enforcement on that. And some of the information that you get that's accurate and it's later confirmed, it's like, wow, that's a blessing in disguise. On one hand, it's heartbreaking, but then on the
Right.
other, it's to know that is phenomenal. So I
Mhm.
don't openly classify myself as a medium, and like I said, I have my own reasons for that. But I there's a lot of responsibility for it, and I don't think like you're one of the psychic mediums that I absolutely think is genuine, trustworthy. But sadly,
Thank you.
I think there are many, and no offense, but I think there are many that don't understand the responsibility with it and are using it for the wrong reasons, maybe for personal gain, for fame, for fortune, things of that nature. So it's one of those things that needs to be you can't I don't think you can be a successful medium if you're going to use it and operate it through the ego. It has to be from the heart and from like a humble state. And
Right.
so that's just my I mean I can go on and on, but that's just my point about it. But yeah. So
No, no, I appreciate that, and I agree, and there's nothing. Well, I charge. It's part of how I make my living now.
oh yeah, no,
But
absolutely. But
but
there's some
I
that
try
just
to make sure it's coming from the
right.
right place
Mhm.
instead of the other. And I was
Right,
working and
right.
developing my skills for 40 years basically before I started going professional. So
Mhm.
because there are so many nuances and things about it. But I was asking partly out of interest, but also that plays a part in how you do the research for the afterlife, I would think.
It does, yeah. I mean, even on like investigations or case studies, I would consider myself more of an intuitive type of investigator. And then, of course, you back it up with, and I know a lot of people don't like to use the word science or scientific, but I
Mhm.
will use those words, backing it up in, with science as well. So I feel, and this is just how it works for me personally. I think approaching paranormal research or any sort of research into the afterlife, paranormal, whatever branch it is, ufology, cryptozoology, ghosts and hauntings, whatever, uh,
Mhm.
blending it with a science type of background, but then also using metaphysics and intuition and mediumship. I think if you
Mhm.
blend the two, you get just a more broadened, I guess, holistic approach to it, I guess. And so
Yeah.
that's what works for me.
That makes sense for me too. The
Yeah,
instruments can help tell us there's some kind of an anomaly that's
right,
creating something. And
right.
once we whirl out nature or man-made appliances or
Mhm.
whatever, but then the medium can help tell who that is and what they want.
Exactly.
And
Exactly. Exactly.
um,
I mean, even like, for example, let's take EMF meters.
mhm,
If you're let's say you get a intermittent spike to like zero point 0.1 milligauss or whatever, and if someone says, "Oh, that means a ghost is here." Well, if you're gonna just go with that mindset instead of using that piece of equipment in conjunction with other types of environmental monitoring,
mhm,
other types of experiences that are going on during that investigation or case study. Let's say you have a spike in your EMF meter, and then at the same time you were to get maybe an EVP. Well, that's two pieces you can put together. So I
right.
think, solely by themselves, equipment may not say much, but when you use them in conjunction with other types, certain types, as well
Mhm,
as experiences and as well as, what intuition, things of that nature, then it can kind of paint a picture. But I'm one of these with equipment. I think a lot of the equipment out there is probably not that beneficial. I tend to err on less is more, but that's just
Right.
me. So
Yeah.
I don't know
Well,
how you feel about that, but
I I find the equipment gets really boring.
mhm.
Um, and I quit looking for EVPs and videos or photos because I've had the entities tell me too many times, why the blank should we go to all that effort and use that much energy? You can see us and hear us. And I
Yeah,
tell
it's a
them, yeah,
valid
but I
point.
can't prove it. That's why. And they just laugh and say, that's your problem. You know,
And
so,
see, you know
and
what?
they're right.
And you bring up yeah, you bring up a good point though. I've talked to some researchers that will throw out anything that's subjective. So feelings, emotions, psychic intuition, that's thrown out. To me, that is data. It may
Yes,
not be objective, but it is data that can
right.
back up objective pieces of data. So
Yes,
you need to put those two together because that helps to paint that's a piece of the puzzle right there. And that helps to paint a story and paint a picture as to what's going on. So I kind of disagree with that and I think emotions, intuition, any sorts of channeling, anything like that should be absolutely included in that case report.
I do too.
Absolutely.
And then you
Yeah.
can evaluate how that fits, and you can
Mhm.
evaluate different people. Some people don't make things up on purpose, but they convince themselves of something going on that isn't simply
Right.
because for their own psychological needs, that's
That's
what
true.
they
Yeah,
need to
like
identify with.
yeah, so like psychogenically created. I mean, I think it might be obvious in some ways when that's being done and then other times not so much, but I mean, when you have before you write your case report, you have to look at all these factors and kind of put
Right.
them together and see what fits,
Mhm.
right? But yeah, that's another I mean, in a lot of these very active historical locations that people go into, like Waverly Hills, for example, or maybe Trans Allegheny
Mhm.
Lunatic Asylum or Gettysburg. You have people year after year going into these locations. So then you have to differentiate in your experiences. Okay, what are let's say you're talking to someone and there's all these claims of phenomena what in terms of these claims are innately by themselves so innate paranormal phenomena not influenced by the human mind
Right.
versus okay what batch of these claims are actually caused by someone by the human mind so like maybe
Right.
psychogenically so you have to kind of differentiate those two and that's a battle too in and of itself
Right. But
so
then there's that other piece, which is kind of where I was going with it. I'm glad you said the psychogenic because that's a real possibility. But
mhm
also, I've known people who their sense of self and being and they're wonderful human beings often who need to be recognized and
mhm
feel a little special, and
mhm
they convince that they're feeling something that isn't really happening.
right
It's
right
not that they're creating something with their minds or their emotions. It's it's like a hypochondriac with illness sometimes.
true
Only
true
they're not they're not meaning to defraud. Although I have run across people who have fake things,
Yeah,
um,
that's
who have
sad, very
lied
sad.
or
Mhm.
moved the planchette or the rest of it. And sometimes you can tell. I mean, I ran into that once on a remote viewing exercise, and um, I was right. It was good
That's
confirmation. It also
yeah, that's
confirmed the
sad.
character of the person.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Same
mhm,
with me. I was oh gosh, where were we? Historical location. We were all sitting around a table doing like a kind of like it was basically a séance. And there
mhm,
was one person there moving the table, so he put his hands underneath the table and he was banging against it. And I remember this distinctly. I saw him doing it, and then he saw me look at him doing it. No words were ever needed to be said because he knew that I saw him. I didn't
mhm.
relay, but it's stuff like that, you have to pay attention to it.
Yeah,
Oh my
that's
gosh.
part of the reason why holding hands on a seance is a good thing.
Yes, I know. Oh my gosh.
And having table legs not too close to people's
Mhm.
feet, because
Yeah,
that's easy to
exactly.
hit, just,
I know. And it might
uh
sometimes it might be accidental too, but this was
right.
definitely, like
Mhm.
this person was definitely doing that on purpose,
Yeah.
but yeah, you asked about the afterlife.
Right.
And so, you know, in my presentations, I'll preface it by saying, "Look, I'm alive, okay? So I haven't been to the afterlife that I know of, although I do believe I'm an old soul. I have many people told me that, so I do think that this is not my first rodeo. And
Mhm.
so, I feel like in some way or shape or form that perhaps maybe I've been there in a past life before. Again, it's hard to know without really getting like past life regression there done, but I don't think you can look at the afterlife without examining cultural and religious beliefs and perspectives of it, getting
Right.
into certain types of paranormal phenomena, even psi phenomena, EVP, for example, apparitions, various types of channeling and metaphysics, psi
Mhm.
phenomena, getting into quantum physics a little bit,
Right.
quantum mechanics, and getting into the science behind, for example, NDEs and the plethora of near death experiences from people from young years, from childhood all the way to adulthood, from all kinds of different backgrounds, different cultures that have these sorts of NDE experiences, and they're so similar in their characteristics. And so
Right.
that's something you have to look at. So when you look at the afterlife, I don't think you can really study it without looking at all of those things that I just mentioned. And
Mhm.
then, in course, talking with people that have either had an NDE, or maybe they've had a profound experience where they channeled a departed loved one. And so when you look at those stories and you talk to people that have those stories, oftentimes you're gonna what you're gonna get from it is that, okay, the afterlife where we're going is a place that is quite beautiful, and it's a place, I believe it's a place where we go to. It's the next chain in our soul's evolution.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of soul maturity that goes on there. I think there's probably different ranks in the afterlife. I would like to think so. I think it's definitely a place that's quite beautiful. Even NDEs, people have talked about how the colors are more vibrant than what we see here on Earth.
Mhm.
The landscapes, the settings can match and adhere to the settings that were commonly observed in that person's culture.
Mhm.
So I think there's a lot of similarities to, in terms of the settings here on Earth, that maybe there's those types of backgrounds in the afterlife. But yeah, I just think it's a very beautiful place that we go to. That's just my opinion. So
Well, that's my experience
I was just gonna say I'd love to hear yours too.
and I haven't done as much reading as you have, um, but, um, I give past life readings. I don't do regressions. I'm not a hypnotist, but I read the past lives, and I communicate with dead people a lot.
Yep,
Um,
I love
and
it.
they all they're they heal. Life on this planet is pretty brutal, so a lot of
Yes.
times our souls need a good R&R place. We
Mhm.
do have a group there that one of the theories is we don't send all of our soul into each incarnation, and we have advisors that help us choose how much and which life for the lessons, but ultimately it's our choice. Um,
Mhm. Yep.
and so sometimes we don't bring enough down, sometimes too much. But anyway, there is this soul group up there that we're part of, and whatever the interactions are down here, up I say up there because it's no it's nowhere in our plane, and
Right.
just out of I grew up in a Christian culture, not practicing much, but
Not
it
Catholic here, but not practicing it. Yep, I went to
yeah,
Catholic school, all of that, but I don't practice it as an adult. I'm just more spiritual in nature, I guess.
I am too. And
Yeah.
I grew up Lutheran nominally, but I converted to Catholicism because of Thomas Merton and Dorothy Day mostly, and Buddhist
Mhm.
meditation.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
and
Phenomenal.
anyway, that's
Buddhism.
a whole different story. But yeah, my we heal. We can go wherever we want to. We can travel to the other realms. Um, everybody, and this is one of the things I try to emphasize in um, some of the writings I've done, my newsletter, is it isn't a place of punishment
Right,
either. It's a place of
right.
healing and learning. And I have
I
talked to
agree.
a lot of suicides, and they're not having to do life over. They're not punished. They're free of the pain and the misery. They're free of the illness that bound them and made life miserable here.
I love hearing
And
this.
um, there shouldn't be any judgment. There shouldn't. They've. It's part of their life journey that they chose to be born into from the
Mhm.
beginning. It's part of that whole lesson, and then it's also part of the lesson for the people around them that are affected by their death.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
some of the most beautiful, radiant people I've come across have been fairly recent suicides.
Interpretation of experience can vary maybe depending on what source of interpretation is used in interpreting. We have filters that the experience must go through in interpreting heart versus ego. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I, I agree. Your mom's a wise lady, but
Yeah, I love her.
yeah, but yeah, I agree with you on your interpretation of this. I think it's something people need to know more about.
I think so too.
We
I
live
think
with
so too.
religions teaching punishment, and not. I'm not talking just Christian. Most of them have, uh, a good and negatives piece to them, um,
Mhm.
and I don't buy it.
Yeah, and it's even some of the science too and the human, consciousness survives physical death. There's a lot of different science beliefs about that. Robert Lanza's biocentrism. You have the Max Planck Institute for Physics, Sir Roger Penrose, and oh my gosh, oh man, I'm forgetting who else it was. Oh, I'm blanking on his name, but it's their objective orchestrated reduction theory that consciousness exists in the microtubules and then is dispersed once we pass. There's a lot more to that. Oh
Okay,
gosh, I'm forgetting on the. Let's see, I have notes here. Let's see
you're
what
much
they.
better read on this than I am.
Yeah. Oh god, it's Sir Roger Penrose, and I'm. Oh my gosh, he's University of Arizona professor too. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name, but yeah, there's all kinds of different scientific theories on the human consciousness surviving death and actually I had on a doctor from Scotland, Dr.
Hmm.
Piero Parasetti on my show, and he's written a couple of books on the afterlife, and he really has done extensive like laboratory research into the afterlife and into in the study of it. And so he was on my show, gosh, a couple years ago, the Afterlife Chronicles. So that might be an episode for those to go back and listen. If you just go to afterlifechronicles.podbean.com and go down, and you'll find Dr. Piero Parasetti, and his interview was just the way he looks at it in the research that he's done and replicated in the lab really, really is telling.
Now, how do
So
you Afterlife Chronicles?
.podbean.com, and so that
Uh,
has all the archives of my show's on hiatus right now, but it has all the archives of all my past guests. And so I think he was on 2021. I think it was June of like 2021, and it was a pre-recorded interview, but it's all there. Dr.
okay,
Piero, his last name is I think it's Parissetti.
P E
So
R I S T T I.
yeah. Yes, Dr. Piero Parasetti. So Afterlife Chronicles and yeah, afterlifechronicles.podbean.com.
Okay, and Podbean is bean like green beans.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I think yeah, it's Chronicles, Chronicles,
I oh, I'm
afterlifechronicles.podbean.com.
glad you told me that. Let me change that.
No, that's
'Cause I
okay. Yeah,
spelled
no
it wrong.
worries. Shame on
Oh,
you, William. No, I'm kidding. Happens to me all the time. I just happen to notice it. Um,
okay. Now hang on
yeah,
just
that
a
was a really
second.
awesome interview though.
Great. Now, oops. Okay. So AFTLifechronicles
Mhm.
dot
Afterlifechronicles.podbean.com.
pod BEAN.com.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's also on my website too, authornicolestrickland.com. If you go to the radio section, there's a embedded Podbean playlist in there, and you can just scroll down and see it there too. But
great. Let
that
me
was a
make sure I got
fascinating
that right.
interview.
Is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah,
Okay.
mhm. Yep, that's perfect. Yep.
Phew.
So
Between typos and a brain that doesn't always spell right. I think I'm a little
well, I mean, yeah,
dyslexic.
you're multitasking, it's hard.
I know. Um, I'm of a generation where we didn't have to do that all the time.
Right.
Um,
Right, I know. Oh my god.
talk about feeling old. Um, oh, your mom's so
Oh,
sweet.
my mom is so sweet. Oh, thank you,
Yeah.
mom. Oh. But yeah, this is and I love your viewpoints too because I think you have a really genuine, authentic view on the paranormal, channeling, psychic mediumship. So it's good to talk with people like that. So
Well, I feel like I'm at home talking with these things as well because we seem to, and it's not like I only like to talk to people that I'm on the same page with and mesh so well with these ideas because I do enjoy getting other perspectives and learning, and
mhm, me too.
I
Yep.
don't have people on the show just because they agree with me. But
Yeah. No, I hear
it's
you on that.
it sure makes it's a different thing. It's like two friends sitting down over a glass of wine, and
Yeah. Yeah.
in this case,
And
it's a cup of coffee. But
absolutely, and different perspectives are welcomed, and, even if there's people you don't agree with, you don't chastise them for it. They're perfectly it's fair for them to believe in what they believe in, and if you have your beliefs that differ, that's okay too.
yeah, I get a
So,
little fussy if they don't have any reason for them. I
yeah,
mean, if
well,
they're,
yeah, yeah. I hear you
and
on that.
I just talk about that in life in person. I'm
Mhm.
do something, or I'm happy to listen to why. If you've got something that's some kind of a legitimate source of kinds that are doing it.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm finding, and I don't do politics on my shows and my
Oh,
professional.
you're so smart, neither do
Uh,
I. Oh my
my
gosh.
Now my personal website, that's or Facebook page, that's another story. But I'm just saying that we live in such a divided time now, and I'm
Mhm.
not sure if it's really any more divided or we just hear about it more because we get it bombarded 24/7,
Oh,
and
I know, it's
we
insane.
didn't used to.
I
But
know.
when you sit down and listen and talk to people, often there's something where you can really find there's an element that you can relate to that are
Yeah,
you find can be quite nice about somebody. Different things. It doesn't mean everybody's trustworthy. It doesn't mean everybody has the right intention, but often we can find a common place to at least understand where the other person's coming from. That doesn't mean we have to
absolutely.
disagree, but it's
Yep.
easier to treat the other person as a human being with the right to their own opinions instead of somebody that should have just been lobotomized or something. Um,
Absolutely,
and
absolutely, and what you're talking about is empathy. So,
mhm,
empathy and sympathy go a long way.
yeah,
So
and I work at it. And it wasn't a a way of life in the house I grew up in, as far as varying ideas varying from somebody else's, but I can still hear
You've
my dad's
evolved.
voice.
Yeah.
So, but
Evolution. It's a beautiful
yes,
thing.
it is. And we keep
Yes.
finding newer information about it all the
I
time.
know. I know. It's fabulous.
It's part of what I love about history. We keep finding out more.
I know. Oh, history. Oh my, I always say history and the paranormal are best friends with a dear kinship. I actually think I put that in one of my books. I think it's one of my Queen Mary books, but it's true.
Okay.
It's just such a way to really it's like when you look at the paranormal, in a way, it's history coming to life.
Right. You
And then
can't
you
have
get
one
into
without the other.
you can't, no, and then I
Mm-mm.
mean, there's the whole concept of time, past, present, and future, are they all 3 entities by themselves, or does it fuse together, time? That's an interesting discussion.
It is. I read Jane Roberts' Oversoul 7 books,
Mm,
in the probably 1982 or 83.
mhm,
And part of what she talked about in these books was that whole concept of the past and the present and the future. It's not linear, it's all at once. It's
exactly,
just
yeah,
here in a
I
multiple.
I
And
believe it does.
this was before people were talking about string theory and quantum mechanics. Um,
Exactly. So she was
and
on to something there.
yeah, and it made a lot of sense. I really like those books. There are pieces of them that stick with me.
Yeah,
Um,
see that? Those are books to
yeah,
have on your shelves right there.
yep. And I can't remember if there were parts I didn't pay as much attention to. But going back, you see, this is another piece, so it gives an indication of how long I've had interest and worked with all of this. It's not like you can call yourself something before you've really put the time in.
Right,
And
right.
uh, um, because I didn't used to call myself a medium. It's only been maybe the last 15 years or so that I've called myself a medium. Um,
That's awesome.
because I didn't feel qualified.
Yeah, and you're like I said earlier, you're one of the authentic ones out there, which
Thank you.
is, and you just know when you meet someone, you just know that they're authentic. But, I wanted to quickly say too, people's interests in the paranormal have skyrocketed, it seems like, in the last 15 to 20 years. Of
Right.
course, you can say, "Oh, pop culture, the TV shows, that helped." I think there's something else to the equation, though. I think that there's something in the cosmos that is almost bridging together both worlds, our mortal world and those of the afterlife and even other realms. There's
Hmm.
something there that's bridging these two worlds together, and they're desiring to learn from each other and help each other. I That's just something that I believe. Now, what that is in the cosmos, I don't know, but it's interesting that we're living in such hard, brutal times, and yet more people are experiencing the paranormal and connecting with departed loved ones, even spirit guides and others in the afterlife. There's a reason for that.
Right. And, it makes me think of the whole spiritualism piece it really started coming to fruition
Yeah,
during the Victorian period. And
absolutely.
it was a time when you had increasing children. Um, the death rate for workers crowded into the tenements and slums of the major cities was horrific.
I know.
And then you had the Civil War here,
Mhm.
which was it invented modern warfare to a degree. And
It
it's
pretty
like
much did.
World War One, it's like, oh, 6 months of cannon fodder or fire and we're done. And they discovered they had all these horrible weapons, and no, it wasn't 6 months. Civil War was an earlier version of that. And
Absolutely.
people wanted to be able to they wanted reassurance that there's life after death. And they wanted
Absolute
to
Yep.
know their loved ones were okay. And so you get all of this coming together, and a lot of them were charlatans, not all of them, but it's still part of the reason why we have to work hard to show that we're not a fake. But
Oh,
now,
totally. Well said. Well said.
and then I grew up with, the Cold War, which I don't think ever ended, but that's my own opinion, and the fear of nuclear bombs dropping on us.
Oh my
But
gosh.
and I remember the Cuban Missile Crisis a little bit. I was I was very young, but that's when we got camping equipment and we're ready to go, able to live in the hills. Um, oh, and but we've got environmental devastation going on through climate change. We've got massive wars
I know.
that are creating a struggle with people all over the world that I do think affects the energy of that humans tap into. We've now got over 44,000 dead in two earthquakes in
I
Turkey and
know it.
Syria,
It's just it's horrible. Keeps
and that
rising.
affects, and who knows, Putin and nuclear and Ukraine, plus China, Taiwan. I mean, there are all of these pieces where I think, at least on maybe a subconscious level, if not a conscious level, people are going back to that same need to know that
Mhm.
there's something beyond this life and that it's good and that we'll be okay because life is a little more tenuous for us now than it had been. That's a theory. I don't know if it's accurate, but
No, I absolutely agree with you on that.
thank you.
Absolutely. And there's, when you talk about energy, oh gosh, one of my thoughts is like in the human body, we have all these nerve synapses, right? But there's a
Hmm.
nexus between all of them.
Right,
So I often think about, okay, someone, let's say myself in San Diego, California, can get some sort of snippet of maybe channeling of someone. Someone across the world can also get that same sort of snippet where they're channeling the same thing I am. So I often
right.
think about how that parallels the nerve connections and the synapses in our body. So there's, if you think about the entire universe and metaverse, just all the universes combined, it's almost like there's all these like nerve synapses that connect and that allow someone maybe across the globe to have an experience similar to someone maybe out here in the US.
Okay,
So I don't know,
that
it's
makes
just
sense.
I don't know, I think about that. I think that there might be something to that
That makes a
out
lot of
there.
sense. I think, and I think that also explains how sometimes you can have similar things developing in two different parts of the world
Right, right.
in prehistoric times or something. And
Yeah.
and I also think it's just part of the natural human progression
Mhm.
to evolve to and develop this to this point. So of course, then this is the obvious next step. And often that includes ritual that, yeah, of course, everybody's going to have ritual for the sun. The sun goes away and everybody dies.
Mhm.
And so, and if the sun's too strong, everybody dies. So, so you would expect people in Southern and Central America over time to develop some similar ideas about wanting to track this as you would
Mhm.
in Neolithic henges and monoliths and
Right.
standing stones, and mostly the different time periods, but still, it's there's as somebody who loves history, and my bachelor's is history. Part of
Oh,
what I
nice.
part of what I like to look at is the progression and how things
Mhm.
develop and flow and from one area to another. And it's interesting looking at the interchange of ideas from India and China to medieval Europe, or something like that. But I think there's that energy connection, like the 100th
Mhm.
monkey type of a
Yeah.
phenomena,
Yeah.
that there's
Yeah.
also a natural human elevation or evolution
Mhm.
as far as awareness and thinking goes. And I don't know, it just makes sense.
It does make sense. You hear people, "Oh, yeah, history repeats itself." Yeah, there's
Mhm.
a lot of things now in modern times that might be similar and, of course, different to those and from, you know, way back when, but, it's interesting to study history. I think you can learn a lot from,
Mhm.
times before and apply that in many ways to modern life.
Yeah, I think it's really important. There are so many warning signs of what was the beginning of the end of different civilizations,
Mhm.
or things that humans did to themselves to create the collapse of civilizations. That includes some of
Exactly.
what happened in Mesopotamia.
Yes.
Um, that was, and in Central America, that was people altering climate or land or fertility of land, things like
Mhm.
this. Um, and we didn't need aliens to do any of this or to build any of the monuments or anything else. I mean, we're we're smart. We're not a dumb species. Um,
No.
and I think people don't always give us enough credit.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I agree. I think sometimes we're too smart, and that can cause people to be dumb, if that makes sense. But yet,
yeah,
generally speaking, yeah, we're quite a intelligent definitely an intelligent species.
yeah, I think so. You know, I think we might have more egos that get in the way than animals do or something, but I'm not
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
I'm not an animal communicator. Um, um, exactly.
This is important. I have a story about this too, actually.
If you would like to tell it, I would love to
Yeah,
listen.
well, it's quick. So there's a high school in my community that was named after Junipero Serra. Now, he was the father of the mission system, right, in
Okay.
California. So, there's also in Presidio Park, another very famous site called the Serra Museum, which, my team has investigated. We've done some tours there, and so it's the Junipero Serra Museum, and that's where the San Diego Historical Society's, one of its offices is, as beautiful, beautiful, lots of
Mhm,
history. So this high school in my community in San Diego in Tierra Santa, like I said, Sarah High School. It was named that. It's been that for years. It was just about, I think last year. Yeah, it was last year. The student body wanted to rename it, and I believe it is renamed Canyon Hills. I didn't go there. I went to a different school, but
mhm,
Canyon Hills High School. They wanted to get rid of the Junipero Serra name because of the history. And so they had a bunch of people in Tierra Santa, in my neighborhood. They went around asking us to sign petitions for it. I didn't sign it. I didn't
mhm.
sign it at all because you know what? Whether you think Junipero Serra was a bad man, whether you think that or not, that's a part of history of San Diego and in California. Why
Right.
cancel that? Why try to erase that?
Yeah.
So it's sad.
I think we need to learn from things.
Mhm.
Now, there are things that need to be moved out of the entranceway
Yeah.
of cities, and there needs to be evaluation of why things were
Mhm.
set up. And again,
Right.
I'm not gonna I could take this a lot further, and I'm not going to, because then we'll get into
Yeah,
politics.
I know. But
Um,
it
but mostly what we need to do is use these things, sometimes move them and use them as history tools, as learning tools, and
exactly.
including that this was the norm at that time period. We need to not judge history by what we know and what we feel now by
That's
modern
so
standards.
true.
History is
Exactly.
history.
Yeah.
And we learn, and we don't want to go back and repeat that, which is
Mhm.
part of why we need to keep learning from it instead of covering it up.
Exactly. Oh, well said on that. Beautifully
Yeah.
said.
Mark Twain, Samuel Clemens, was an abolitionist. Um, he was a big friend to the African American and didn't believe in slavery and whatever, but his books are full of language that people don't like because that's what was said then.
This is why, for example, at the Rancho Buena Vista Adobe, where, it's where we do our paranormal tours. They're on hiatus now, still because of the pandemic.
Hmm.
But we've been doing research there since 2010. And
Hmm.
this is why we don't use the word Native American in our questioning. We use Indians because that's the language that they would have known back
Hmm.
then. Right? So,
Right. And I'm not sure. I mean, I've heard different things. Some people like Native American and some like Indian,
right.
um, and some like indigenous, which
Yes.
is really not quite true either because these, everybody came in from a different place first and developed, and we're not the same. They're not the same people that were first here.
Mhm.
Descendant maybe of, but it's
Yeah.
mixed and changed.
Yeah.
So it's, if scientifically it gets complicated,
It
but
does.
um, but yeah, I agree with that, and I try to be understanding. And like I say, there are times when things need to be moved to a different location, but
Yeah,
you don't want to.
makes sense.
I mean, when a college building or department was built because of this person's donations, part of the obligation, I think, then is to understand more fully about who this person was and
Right.
the history around and everything else. Um, it's too easy to. We like to categorize people into good or bad, and it
See,
just
exactly,
doesn't
and
work
it
for most
it
people, I don't
doesn't
think.
it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't.
Um,
Even historical figures,
mhm.
maybe they were, in using those 2 words, okay, maybe some of their actions were considered bad, some of their actions were considered good.
Mhm.
Well, where do you lump them then? Can't be
Right,
in either, right?
right.
So, yeah.
And, the writers of the Constitution knew that it was an imperfect document. They know
Mhm.
humans are imperfect, and that's why they
Mhm.
left it open to change.
Mhm.
And
Smart.
yeah, I mean, it was really a radical. I don't think we remember and realize how radical that document and the experiment it started was.
I
And
know.
yes, it had lots of flaws, but not for the time. For the
No,
time,
exactly.
it was huge. And um, we need to put all that together. And people, I mean, shoot, the Constitution even guarantees Islam, um, you know, the ability to practice its faith without. I mean,
Mhm.
the separation of church and state is what I'm
Right.
talking about.
Right.
Is so
Mhm.
good, and as long as you don't push one onto the other, um, and there's some,
That's true.
yeah. Well, actually, that's a really good point, and I'm
That is
gonna,
a good but yeah, my mom does make really good we have these sorts of discussions, her and I too, all the time, so
good, good,
yeah.
but I'm gonna
2
digress.
philosophical minds put together.
Awesome, but I'm gonna use that as a trigger to give an example just from my own family history. We're
Mhm.
Germans that lived in Russia. We went under Catherine the Great,
Okay.
and mm, a bunch of us cousins got to take a tour that went to some of the original colonies, and including the colony my grandparents immigrated from.
Oh, wow.
And I learned there so much more about the genocide against the Germans. It started under the Tsar. My grandparents came over in
Right.
1912, and they were going to go back after the Tsar had everything under control. Yeah, that didn't work so well, it
Okay.
did. But the
Didn't
idea
didn't
is
work so well.
they they destroyed the German cemeteries. They took all the crosses
Oh,
off the churches and converted. I mean, they didn't even admit that we existed for
oh my
decades
gosh.
afterwards
Mm,
because they were so intent on this process. And so a whole bunch of history is erased and ignored, and including the development of these areas. Catherine brought us into these areas because they were
mhm.
areas that were basically uninhabited. There were occasional nomadic raids going through there. The Kyrgyz, the uh, Turk, Turkmenistan, I think, um, the Kyrgyz. I mean, a few of the stands had nomadic peoples coming through, but it was a way to settle these regions, and they settled and became very prosperous, a lot of it. And then that brought in other people, and then kicking us out of our homes. I mean, did move people in 1941. Within 1 or 2 days, all the Germans were either in Siberia or the stands or dead. And
Wow.
um, other people were brought in and put in their homes and farms. I mean, dinner was still cooking in the oven sometimes. It would be so fast, or
And that's during
their
World War
cows
II
would be out.
era.
Yeah,
Yeah, oh gosh.
Stalin was a bad guy,
Yeah,
but the point is, this is what happens when you try to erase everything. Is you get it, you erase it, and then you lose track of not just that one culture, but everything else that was influenced and around it, and how it
exactly.
developed.
And there's so much learning that can take place from breaking down some of the unfortunate times in our history.
Right.
Like, for example, a lot of the persecution during World War II, for example,
Yes.
oppression, things of that nature. There's a lot that can be learned from that.
hmm
So
World
to
War.
erase it is just terrible.
Yeah. World War I. My grandfather's English would have been pretty bad. They didn't learn English until their eldest child born here went to school. And,
Wow, okay.
well, grandma spoke 3 languages. Grandpa had 2 or 3, but none of them
Oh, that's
English. I mean,
amazing. Oh, wow.
these are smart, educated, rich people. In the old country, broke people here, but, um, but Dad said during World War I, Grandpa, the only thing that saved him from being hung as a German was he was actually a Russian citizen, not a
Oh
German.
my goodness. Wow, look at that.
Yeah, and my dad said he got in fights all the time, and as a kid in grade school because of his last name, German. And German was the language they spoke about the house mostly. Dad
I'm
didn't
part
understand.
Yeah, I'm actually part German. I'm mostly Italian, but I have a little Irish and German in me too,
Mhm.
so,
Well,
yeah.
I've got the German and Finnish and British mix, so
That's
that
nice.
it kind of explains the stubbornness and the few other things.
Oh, yeah, I get the, "Why, you're Italian and Irish, man, your temper must be big." Oh, there's a few times I've kind of lost it there, but generally I'm even I'm mostly even keeled, but
Yeah, I try to vent where it's not going to do any harm, and then
yeah,
deal with it.
exactly. I know. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, but there's so much. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
hmm
God, there's so much that we don't know, and oh, man.
There's some. I'm really enjoying all the comments from people. I
I am
appreciate
too.
people
These are
watching and
awesome.
listening in.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
how long do you want to go? We've been at it for an hour and 18 minutes. I'm
It's
good
up
to
to
go
you,
for
my
a little
friend.
longer.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
up to you. Yeah, sure.
Um, what? I guess one of the things I'd like to know about, and for people who listen regularly, they know I jump around. It's just I have an ADHD brain, and that's the way
It's
it works.
discussion style. I love
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
That's
And
how it should be.
um, what I guess would be maybe I don't like the questions the scariest encounter or something like that, because
I
that's
appreciate
putting
that.
the chills and thrills in it,
Mhm.
the so-called shits and giggles
That's
into
a whole discussion right there, oh my gosh.
yeah, and it's when it makes me angry. So,
Yep, me too. I'm with you
so
on that one.
yeah, so I think I would like to say, what is your most meaningful or rewarding
Oh my
experience with the
gosh.
paranormal being? I won't even limit it to human paranormal past being, but any.
Oh gosh, there's so several. All there's so several. Did that make sense? See, there's the
Yes,
fuses that aren't connecting there that I was talking about. There's
makes sense to me.
several. Yeah, so
Mhm,
there's several, but one I'm gonna share is with my cat, Kaylee. Now, I'm a huge animal lover, a huge cat lover. I've had cats all my life. So I adopted Max and Kaylee, my litter mates, just shortly after the 2003 San Diego wildfire storm. That
mm,
was just pretty massive. I mean, this whole entire city was just pretty much in flames.
oh, gee.
So I adopted them a little bit after. They were about, I want to say they were about 3 months old, give or take, when I adopted them, litter mates. And so the three of us grew so close together. I mean, I've had cats all my life, but there was something very special about Max and Kaylee. I almost think that perhaps we were maybe part of the same soul group. Maybe we had past lives together. There was just a very strong bond. So Max passed away in 2016 from cardiomyopathy, and so then it was just Kaylee and I until to December 19th of last year. And
Mhm,
so Kaylee lived until about 18 and a half years old. And so she was diagnosed with diabetes. She had a hyperthyroidism. She even, a year before her passing, her transition, she was found to have some sort of cancerous nodule in her lungs. So she had all these health issues, but yet just persevered. And of course, I did my due diligence about giving her insulin and giving her meds and all of that and taking her in to be seen. But I don't want to take credit. I'm owing her the credit because she was just such a strong willed cat, so intelligent, just a bright. If there's a society, Mensa Society for cats, she'd be in it. I'm telling you. So, so I took her in about a few weeks or a few days before her passing, and like her brother, they found a different type of cardiomyopathy, and so that eventually pretty much took her and allowed her to transition. So I had a few days of golden moments with her
mhm,
prior to her transition. And then I told her, I said, Kaylee, when it's your time, tell me when you're ready. And she did. And so then we took her, and it was just the most peaceful transition that I've ever experienced. My mom was there with me as well. And it was shortly after that, like minutes after that, even the veterinarian was crying because he knew her. But right as she passed, you can feel her in the room,
mhm,
and just the synchronicity just started occurring right within minutes. Like when we left the room, there was a bright light shining through the hallway down at the end there, just bright light. And then when we left the facility, uh, we went to In and Out. I wasn't really that hungry, but we went to In and Out. And then as we were leaving, I happened to notice, just weirdly, I glanced right up at a billboard and it had a fingertip that was touching a bright orb of light. So I took that as another synchronous moment. Seeing two birds flying in the sky in unison that I've never seen before the following day, I took that as some synchronous moment, some message that Max and Kaylee were reunited. So where I'm getting is the fact that, and I think I've astrally projected before in dreams, not
mhm,
necessarily willingly, but it's
right,
happened a few times. But since Kaylee's passing, and it happened, I want to say it was 2 nights after her passing, I had one of those dreams that, and they were dreams, but they were more highly evolved dreams where it's
right,
like a spirit communication within the dream, so to speak. The
mhm,
first dream, she was sitting on my desk right in front of me, and she was laying down, and she looked vibrant. She looked just like she was prior to getting diabetes, so a little bit more weight on her. And so I saw her, and I was able to, in the dream, say, Kaylee, I see you. And I was able to lean down and touch her and feel her. And
uh-huh,
then I woke up with such peace. And so since her passing, which was December 19th last year, I
okay,
have had about 12 or 13 dreams that I believe is a form of astral projection to where she would come down to my plane, but yet I was able to just leave my body slightly so I can experience her. And the reason I know this is because the dreams occurred in my bedroom at night, same lighting. I was laying in my bed. They always occur on my bed
Mhm.
where I'm able to like sit up even though I'm asleep, and she would walk on the bed. I would see her, I would feel her, I would be able to hold her and pick her up. I would hear her meow, things of that
Wow.
nature. But it was just, like I said, more than just a dream. And I do believe that I somehow astrally projected slightly to be able to reach her. And so we kind of met in the middle, so to speak. And so
Right.
that's happened about 12 times now, and it's just always the same circumstances, so profound, and I've never had that with any other person or animal. So
Wow.
I don't know. I think that Kaylee, when she transitioned, she went into some higher rank almost immediately into the afterlife. That's just my thought. I could be wrong, but just
I
very,
think
very, very, very meaningful.
it's
Very, very
beautiful.
meaningful. Yeah. So,
It
but there, I
really
mean,
is.
there's so many others. I mean, every encounter I have with an earthbound or a spirit, even if it's not someone I knew, it's
Mm.
an honor. I consider it an honor because, it's you can learn from that. And to be able to, partake in that person's story, even for that short little second or two, I
Right.
consider that an honor.
I
So,
do too. I mean, they're allowing us in, and they're spending that energy to
right.
allow us in. And I I try to remember to thank them always because I
Yes,
appreciate it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Me too.
And I
I
don't
think
yell at
there's
them.
yeah, and there's so much, and this is a whole different discussion, but there's a lot of exploitation and disrespect of the realm and other realms
Hmm.
going on. It's not placed before us for amusement.
No,
It's not here for our pleasure. It's not.
no, I
So it's
agree with you.
um
And I've had them remind me. I try to be very careful and respectful about that. But I
I know you
remember
do.
I remember at the Walker Ames one time in Port Gamble,
Mhm.
I was teaching a workshop and there was a lot happening, and as much as I tried, I had them say we are not circus animals.
Oh, see that?
And
It's
it made
so
me step back
true.
and say, "Oh my God, I didn't realize I was doing that." So I apologized and changed tactic a little bit. Explained to them what we were trying to do too
Right.
and I try to incorporate that now at the beginning of my classes that we're not, excuse us, but we're here to learn how to talk to you.
Mhm.
Um, we don't want to be rude, but um,
Yeah.
it's part of this process, and I haven't gotten that feedback from them since.
See, that's
Um,
good. Yeah. I mean,
but I
having
may have
that
not have paying attention. But it was loud
right.
and clear that one
Oh,
time, and it's like, whoops, okay. Um,
that's
because
a very interesting story, and that's, like when we do, before we go in, whether it's a tour or an investigation, there's always that opening statement where we
right,
share our intent even before doing an EVP session. I don't just put down my recorder and hit record. I mean, there's a whole statement of intent that lets them know what we're doing, why we're doing it, and I'll say things. I'll say, if we're not hearing you, we apologize. Sometimes it's hard for us. So we're
right.
not ignoring you. We're here. To if you want to talk to us, that's great. If not, that's okay too.
Hmm.
We're here to just learn about you and, just and communicate. It's so I think doing that goes a long way.
I think you're right. And do you explain sometimes with the equipment what it is, or that it can't hurt them?
Yes, yeah, I will use, and I might use different words like contraption instead of like
Right.
recording or device or things like that.
Hmm.
But I do, yeah, and that's a whole theory too. Can some of this equipment harm them? Can it deter them? Some of this equipment, we don't know that. But yeah, I will explain that, especially with recorders, you may see us using some contraptions or devices. You may see them light up, red or green lights. those are there to record and capture your voice and sound. They're not there to harm you, things of that. So I do. Yeah, I
Yeah,
do, which is smart, I think, and you do that
I
too,
think
which is awesome.
I think that's smart, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and it makes me then think too of you say equipment and use. It just reminded me of one of the things Barry Fitzgerald has talked about.
Yeah.
He's talked about how actually the red light, the UV light that with all these cameras, it actually repels the positive, the the entities we really want to talk to, and builds the ones that we don't want to. And I think it's the UV or something that does the opposite. I get confused. And I'm going to just vanish here for just a moment. Ex- okay,
You
allergy season.
disappeared.
I'm magic.
You magically disappeared.
Yes.
Oh
Oh,
my
I
god, I'm
wish
such a dork. I'm such
I've
a dork.
always I've always wanted to be a wizard that could do all
Right.
that stuff.
I'm like, now you are.
Yeah, that and to one of my secrets that I really would like to do is when I'm at a public meeting or something and you know the person up there is just lying through their teeth,
Oh yeah.
elevate them and shake them until they start telling the truth,
Oh my gosh,
or
you were so funny.
you know,
It's
or a
true.
few other things sometimes that would even
Yes.
be more embarrassing for them. I won't tell them, but it's
That's so
confess.
funny. I love it.
So there are probably good reasons why I don't have those powers and abilities.
Well, if we ever see someone that's lifted, I'll be like, "Oh, where William Becker must be somewhere in the audience here, right? Where is he?" I love it.
Oh, well, I am going to hopefully later today have the links up for this show
Okay,
on,
cool.
and they'll send them to you. It
Yeah,
should be out on the Simply Spooky Facebook page
I love
pretty
that page,
pretty
by the way.
soon.
That's awesome.
Oh, good.
Mhm.
Well, we're up for an award. Um,
Are
this,
you?
the Paranormal Awards or something.
Oh,
I have
good.
there's a whole bunch of stuff, and I don't know anything about it. Their website doesn't say who's behind it, who's sponsoring it, who's running it,
Oh,
what the
cool.
awards are. It just has a list. Oh, it's a kind of a rubbish popularity contest type thing, I think, basically. Um,
Hey,
you
but
know, I
still though, that's
but
fun.
yeah, it is kind of fun. But I'd like to know a little more about it. But um, I think I think they posted on the Simply Spooky page about it.
I'll have to check that
But
out.
yeah, so vote for us.
Yes,
Um,
yes, I was just gonna say, can you vote? Because 'Cause I'll, like, go and vote.
yeah, and
Nice.
I didn't really know anybody else much. I mean, a few people I knew. I knew Joe Chin. I've met him before. He's a great guy, and
Yeah, yeah.
there are a couple people I knew personally, but not much. And a couple I knew just because you hear the name or they've been on TV.
Right.
But for the most part, and and it's just weird. Oh, I love
Oh.
Yorkshire.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Cliff. Nice.
Yes.
He's had in his
Um,
comment too, you have to build trust with spirit. Once they trust you, they will make contact. Yep,
it's
absolutely.
it's true. I mean, it's
Mhm.
just like dealing with living people in that sense,
Right. I
and
know.
not all of them are gonna wanna talk to all of us.
No, exactly.
There are
Exactly.
people that don't wanna talk to me that are breathing. Why shouldn't there people who aren't breathing not wanna
Yeah,
talk
and
to
this
me?
is why, there's no that we shouldn't be entitled and think that, you know, they need to, they're in I've been in cases before seeing other investigators almost demanding the energies to speak. It's like, why are you doing that? That's so rude. It's
Yeah.
terrible.
How would you feel if somebody was doing that with your grandmother?
Right?
Um,
That's just it. You don't know who you could be dealing with someone's grandmother, deceased father, deceased child, you
yeah.
know? I mean, yeah.
And even if you're dealing with somebody you know who it is and they're not very nice, the trip to Russia made a really strong point come home. I had a lovely conversation with my grandmother in the school that she would have gone to.
Mhm.
And this was after I'd been to my grandfather's father's house, and his truly wicked stepmother came flying out of the upstairs. And I mean, it reminded me, I laughed. It reminded me out of something out of, Fiddler on the Roof, the dream sequence when
Yeah.
Tevye is coming up with a way.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
She was just like that because she knew I knew all the stories Grandma told me
Oh my
about
gosh.
how evil she was. And I told her off, which was really quite felt good. But Grandma in the school then we were talking, and she said, and I told her what had happened, and she kind of laughed, and she said, but because my grandmother, I think she hated her. I don't know. She
Oh.
certainly disliked her. I won't go into what this horrible human did,
Oh, it's so sad.
but she said, but imagine how miserable her life has to have been for her to be that way.
Yeah, see, there you go. There's the empathy again. There's the
And
empathy right there.
and that was not something Grandma would have said when she was alive. That was
Mhm.
something at which, she came to talk to me there, and it was her soul, her spirit. It wasn't an energy imprint left behind. Although she
Right.
showed me what she looked like as a school that girl there, and I later saw a picture of her about that age, and that was her.
And it was yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Oh, that's so
Uh-huh.
cool.
But it's
Yeah.
something we need to remember, even when we're talking to beings that did some pretty horrific things in life. It doesn't mean we excuse or whatever. I think it's important not to judge them.
Right. I agree on that. I agree. And you hear a lot of, well, if they were nasty in life, that means they're going to be nasty in death. My mom and I, kid you not, were just talking about this before the show. I don't know if I agree with that. Maybe in some cases, yes, but to make that claim and have that be 100% universal toward all humans that have died that were nasty in life, well, they're absolutely going to be nasty in death. I don't think we should make that claim at
I
all. I
don't
mean,
either.
sometimes yes, maybe, but not always. Not
No.
always.
And I find there's a couple different kinds of things. Once there's the impression of the intellect and the personality that a
Mhm.
person leaves in a particular spot. And that can interact with this. It can be
Exactly.
intelligent, the whole thing. But it's
Right.
how that person was in that location when they were still breathing. There's a
Mhm.
different when they are coming to talk to us or whatever. And that is bringing the more of the true self that has been able to advance and to heal and to learn
Right.
from the experience of being that miserable person here.
Exactly. Exactly. I
And
mean, yeah, I mean, even like, let's take a case of that. Let's say you're in a prison, for example, and you're
mhm,
investigating a prison and you encounter maybe someone that's gruff and maybe not so nice. That could even almost be like a residual or like a place memory, or it could be intelligent, like you said,
right,
and be that person's memory there. But yet, that encounter doesn't mean that that person hasn't evolved
that's
either.
right,
So maybe
right,
they could, so that's basically what you just said, so,
yeah. No, I
yeah.
agree. And how many people are there that have hearts of gold and do a lot of stuff behind the scenes helping people that
Mhm.
look like they're pretty gruff, mean people on
Right,
the exterior?
right.
Um, Shoot, Dr. McLaughlin,
Yeah,
basically the father
that's a
of
good
Oregon.
that's a good
Yeah,
example.
yeah.
Absolutely. I love
We'd
that
be
word. I've said it like 10 times today, or if not more. Geez, hello. Fabulous. Move to fabulous now, okay? We're done with absolutely. Let's just go with fabulous. Oh my god.
uh, that's
Um
well, fabulous then makes me think of ballrooms and crystal and lights and, tiaras, so
Yeah, yeah, totally. Oh my gosh.
so I'll go with whatever. Um, but oh, okay, a couple more.
Yeah, audio communication, that's my favorite too.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Well, a friend of mine, yeah, my sister from a different mister in England, she says so a lot of the best EVPs they've gotten is on breaks and stuff when they're just laughing and joking and having a good time, and makes
conversational.
sense.
Mhm.
The entities want to participate. And that makes
Yep.
me think of something else. Some of the EVPs I've heard that are the best have actually been taken in noisy areas outside.
That's very true, yeah, and then, I mean, that could be like a frequency thing. Maybe the noise factor helps to, for them to gain more energy perhaps, or maybe it helps to, imprint it on the recorder, I don't know.
I don't know either, but there's so often people say, "Oh, we can't investigate here, it's too noisy." Well, you can. You still might get things.
Right.
And the an EVP coming through is often sounding very different than the voices from the breathing people there. You can
Yeah,
often tell the difference of that sound. Maybe not
absolutely, yeah.
always, but you can get good, reliable evidence. You don't have to assume you can't investigate someplace just because there's traffic um, or people about. It's it can still work.
I
And
agree
one of
too. Yeah.
those places was on a trail next to it. Well, the railroad tracks go over an overpass. The highway going through town in Oregon City runs right next to it, and there's a pedestrian tunnel that you kind of walk up, and then you get to the top, and you wind up crossing the highway. Um, but going up through that, people, it's a place where people die. The cliff's about 100 feet,
Oh my
and
goodness.
some people over the centuries have been murdered. Some have fallen by accident, and some have jumped. And we were doing an investigation there with TV crews and radio station and a whole bit, and a ton of people. And uh, another medium and I, the people, it was a husband wife team that were really leading the investigation part. Um, she'd had enough of the just stuff, and we were going into the tunnel, and we talked to the guy. We were both seeing the same guy,
Mhm.
and he was trying to be a ladies' man. And she said, "Did you jump?" And the recording came back at peace, at peace.
Oh,
I mean,
that gives me goosebumps.
it doesn't get much um, more comforting than that.
No,
Mhm.
that's pretty amazing right
Yeah,
there. I love
yeah,
hearing stories like this.
yeah. It helps give me. Oh,
Wow.
I don't know what it helps give me. It just helps. But yeah, let me
Yeah.
see. There are a couple more things.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah,
Even the lower level sounds, the class Cs, those are important too.
yeah.
Some people I've talked to, "Oh, I throw out the class Cs." It's like, well, don't. I mean, they tell a story too, you know?
That's right. And sometimes, I mean, you can get if you collect enough evidence along certain lines, you start noticing patterns,
Mhm.
possibly, and you can put together something from those, even if they aren't
Right.
the class A or whatever. And I'm not good at the classifications. I'm I investigate. I've been an experienced investigator for a while. I am not part of a team. I haven't been for years, although yeah, I have a couple of teams that I trust that if they need a medium, I'll work with.
Mhm.
But like I said before, it's usually when they don't want to talk to me anymore, it's kind of like, okay, I'm done. Um, I always appreciate it when they turn off off the stereo and the lights and move chairs or whatever. But I'm not there for the show. I've seen the show before.
Mhm.
Um, and it's like, okay, thank you very much, but um, tell me more about you. And when they're done, it's like, okay, I want to go home now.
Yeah. No, I hear
And
you on that. Yep.
and I like to. investigate during the afternoon and evening instead of late at night.
Yeah, you know what? Day investigations are, a lot you get asked that a lot. What's better, day or night? I mean, it depends on the place, it depends on when the claims are, but it also depends on just preference too.
Yeah, I had a guy once ask me to go investigate with
Yeah.
him because his teammates were too afraid of the place.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. And he said, oh, great. We'll get there at 11 o'clock at night and stay till 3 in the morning or so. And I'm going, oh my God, no, that doesn't sound like fun to me.
Yeah.
Um,
I know.
30 years ago, if that was a dance club and the music was going and the gin was flowing, I'd say sure, but not now.
No, I
Um,
know, I know what you mean. It is hard. I mean, even gosh, all-nighters, oh, it is hard. Oh,
and
man.
I said, well, what time is the activity? And he says, about 3 in the afternoon.
Well, then
And
exact
I
why
said,
not do it then?
that's what I said. And
Yeah, it
he'd never thought of it.
yeah.
It didn't occur to him to go during the time the activity. And I don't even remember who this guy was and wound up not happening, which is great. I'm just using that as an example of,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
we don't have to just be there.
No, not at all.
And I like not stepping on something in the dark and breaking my leg.
Oh, yeah. Oh my god. Yeah, you hear of stories like that. We did an investigation once several years ago at the Hunter
Mhm.
Steakhouse in Oceanside. Now, we had our waiver signed and all of that. We were about an hour into it. 2 men armed with guns came into the kitchen wanting to
Uh-oh.
rob the place. So, we could have been killed, so obviously
Yeah.
the cops were called. We just stayed there in case we were questioned, but they just let us go after a couple of hours, but you never know when something like that may happen. That's why I
Mm-mm.
say if you're gonna do a night investigation and you're not familiar with the territory, you better go there at some point during the day and map it out.
Right.
So,
And I knew some people that live in the town not far from here who would investigate a couple of the cemeteries in that town at night. And they would let the police know
oh,
ahead of
that's see
time.
that yeah, that's
a-
very professional.
And what times we'd be there. So
Mhm.
they knew if they saw flashlights or cars or people at XYZ time.
Right.
And they also made sure we had permission. I mean,
Mhm.
there was no breaking and entering. We weren't going through locked gates or climbing fences. And I don't, I don't promote that.
No,
I don't want to work with people doing that kind of
me
thing.
neither. Me neither.
Um, if we've got to respect the property owners in the place, and again, you never know what you're going to get into in a situation like that either.
I know,
Um,
you never know. You never know. I mean, I heard of a story once where a team went to a location and they literally they snuck in, but they broke the lock off the window to get in. Yeah.
yeah, and in parts, a lot of this country, you could do that, and then in the middle of the night and step into a water moccasin nest or a rattlesnake nest or something.
There you go, exactly.
And
Asbestos, who knows?
yeah,
Yeah. Black
black
widows.
widows.
Yeah, no thank you. It's not worth it.
Oh,
Mm-mm.
yeah, that brings back other memories. Um, Yeah, I'm not a fan of venomous things. We don't
No.
have them in Portland unless they've hitched a ride. And, every once in a while there'll be a snake or there'll be a spider or something like that. But
Yeah, don't you guys have those jumping spiders out there?
I don't think
There's a
so.
name for them. I forget. Who was I talking to? Someone at the Oregon Ghost Conference where they were talking about, like, spider was crawling, but yet they were able to, like, crawl up things. I forget. There's a name to that type of spider up there, and I'm blanking on what it is.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Where I
Mm,
am, we don't have anything native that
mm.
does more than give you a little bit of a minor irritation,
Yeah, not
you know.
bad. That's good. That's
um,
good.
if you even
Mm,
notice it. That
yeah.
being said, my mother was bitten by a brown recluse in
Oh,
this
no.
house. I mean,
Oh,
but it had come in somehow or whatever. Never did see the spider, but the doctor saw the 2 holes in the wound. It took 2 years of wound therapy for it to heal.
for her to those can be oh, man,
Yeah,
yeah, because it evades the tissue there.
yeah.
Oh
But
my gosh.
so but so even up here, you kind of have to watch a little bit. But it's important to be safe and um, treat yourself with a little respect, not just the entities and the owners and the location and the whole rest of it.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay,
You're
good.
frozen up. You freeze visually periodically, but the
Yeah,
audio keeps
no.
coming.
Okay, you can I think my mic just okay, you can
I
hear me.
hear you. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, our
Um.
Wi we were having a an internet issue last night, so it might still kinda be doing that, so
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. No, you're loud and clear.
Okay.
Um. We've reached an hour and 50 minutes. Um. And I think it's a good time to kind of wrap
Yeah.
this up a little bit. Um. Do you have anything that you would like to make sure you get out and talk about before we do that, or anything else that you're doing you want to promote?
Yeah, sure. So I have a book coming out soon, next month, most likely. That's the Afterlife Chronicles, exploring the connection between life, death, and beyond. So that'll be coming out probably mid to late part of next month. I'm
Okay.
shooting for, and then just upcoming shows and stuff like that. You can just follow my social medias or my website, author Nicole Strickland, and then Todd Bates and we co-host Haunted Voices,
Hmm.
together on Friday nights, and that's at 8 PM Central, 10 PM no, 8 PM Pacific, 10 PM Central, and then 11 Eastern, so
Okay. Excellent. And I want to get a copy of the book when it's out. That's part of what I wanted to talk about on this show was the new book coming out, and I spaced it. So excuse me.
yeah, yeah, no, I can always come back on another time if you want, for sure. I don't think my mic's working, so if I sound different, sorry about that.
You sound
Um
great.
Let's see, but yeah, so that was a fun book to write. It was supposed to be published by Schiffer, and then they lost their editor, and they said, okay, we can, you can wait until we get a new editor. Or you can just go on your own. So I just
Hmm.
went on my own. It's my very first self-published book because I've been traditionally published, but there's a lot. It's a learning curve to self-publish a book, but I
Hmm.
just want to do it right rather than do it wrong. So there's all these like little tedious steps you have to take, but it was a fun book to write. So,
Oh, good.
but I'll
Well, I
send
look
you a
forward.
copy for sure.
Oh, good. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you very much. Great. Well, Nicole, I can't thank you enough for being on the show again. And
Thank you for
like I said,
having me.
oh, you're so welcome. And I'll send you the links so you can spread the word
Okay.
when I get them all uploaded. And
Perfect.
uh, have a
And I'll
wonderful
share
time.
those.
Oh, thank you. And here's
Oh,
last from
Katie, you're so
Katie.
sweet.
She
Aw.
is. She's
Mwah.
just one of the really beautiful
I
people.
know.
I know her personally,
She's
and
amazing.
yeah, we get together for coffee occasionally,
Oh, fantastic.
which reminds me we need to again. We live a long ways away from each other, but we meet in between.
Oh,
So,
that's so cool. I know. I wish I lived closer to all you guys. I really do.
well, housing up here is cheaper than down there.
I know it. Oh god, San Diego is so so expensive. It's just ridiculous. It's freaking ridiculous. Oh
Uh,
god.
oh, great. And thank you, Wesley. Thank you to everybody who listened, tuned in. And we will be back. Um, it's just all these wonderful comments.
Yeah, these are amazing
I love
people
it.
in here.
They really are. And I appreciate every one of them very much.
Me too. So thank you so
So
much, guys.
take care. Bye bye, everybody.
Bye bye, guys.